Have you ever been playing Skyrim and just wished that you could scuttle a mile in a Mudcrab shoes? Or perhaps 1v1 Vilcus with nothing but your
big, meaty claws!
Or maybe even blow off some steam at your local tavern? Well, if you have, then this challenge is for you. I am going to attempt what I like to call the Creature Climb Challenge. In order to make this possible, I'll be utilizing the Playable Monster Mod by Circumference64 on Nexus Mods. This mod allows you to play as a whole host of creatures that you're probably used to killing, and occasionally even eating. Now, the way that this challenge is going to work is that I'm going to begin at the bottom of the food chain. Literally. I will have to complete my first quest with a Mudcrab and work my way up the creature hierarchy with each quest completed until I reach Dragon Priest status. If I die more than one time during my quest, I have to go back to the previous creature iteration. The challenge is completed once I finish a quest with the Dragon Priest. I'd like to make a special shout out to the Wildlander modlist makers. I will be using Wildlander for this playthrough, so if you see anything you like or that you think is just cool or interesting, it's going to be from that mod list. So go check out the mod list on Wabbajack or on their website. I will leave a link to the website in the description, and I'll also leave a link to the Playable Monster Mod there as well. But without further ado, please sit back, grab a snack, and enjoy the Creature Climb Challenge. For this video, I thought we could try a slightly different format and see what you guys think of it. I'm going to include more narrating voiceover elements and less text explanations in this video, if any at all. So please let me know what you guys think of the format in the comments. In the last part of the Creature Climb Challenge, we left off as a cave bear with a mission from Vilcus. Now we're supposed to go out to Embershard Mine, which, if you've ever played vanilla Skyrim, you'll know is the starting mine just outside of Riverwood. We're headed there as a representative of the companions to recover a family heirloom. Now we begin by heading in that direction, but we make the critical mistake of trusting some strangers with glowing eyes who beckoned us to come over to them by the roadside.
Traveler, over here.
Oh my gosh. Needless to say, like a foolish little child in a horror movie being offered a balloon, I walked over and paid the price for my simple bear innocence. However, this bear won't be burned twice. And the next time around, I booked it past a headless ghost and through Riverwood with nary a glance toward the roadside until I was approached by two traveling wolves asking me about my carriage's extended warranty. With my newfound experience and jaded outlook on life, I figured it for a scam since I was but a simple bear and didn't even own a carriage. Then, I quickly killed them before they could even try their fake pitch. Finally, I had arrived at my destination, ready to recover this family heirloom. Now, from experience, I knew that there was probably at least one guard outside of the mine. Now, he actually put up more of a fight than I was expecting, but ultimately his attacks proved to be futile and I safely entered the mine. Now, once inside, I knew exactly where to go since I've probably navigated this mine hundreds, maybe even thousands of times. I dispatched the first group of bandits with relative ease, and then pulled the lever that releases the drawbridge so that you can enter into the other part of the mine. Now, I like to imagine that I did it with my teeth or something because I'm truly committed to the role-playing element of this playthrough. Once the drawbridge was down, I cut it a little closer than I'd normally prefer, but I did succeed in taking the next group down. Now, unfortunately, since the footage was corrupted, you'll simply have to take my word for it. But trust me, it was quite the little scrap on the drawbridge. Now, with my prior knowledge of the mine, I knew that the heirloom was going to be nearby, and there's usually only one more major obstacle in the way? I was right, and it was, in fact, the bandit leader of this outfit. Now, he proved to be only slightly tougher than the rest of the bandits, and soon enough he would fall to my claws as well. Once he'd been dispatched, I looted his body and grabbed the mine key. I opened the door, and then I grabbed the steel dagger. I mean, I guess it could have sentimental value or something. Then, I decided to clear out the rest of the riffraff on the other side of the mine. Again, this was not too difficult. Oh, he did some damage. Like, he did legitimate damage. Okay, we gotta be careful here. I had finally cleared the mine, and now it was time to leave. Once I was outside, I noticed a waterfall and some jumping salmon. Of course, I simply couldn't fight my bear instincts, and I had to grab a few of them out of the water. Again, I'm very committed to this roleplay. Once I filled my bear stomach with raw salmon, it was time to head back to Whiterun and turn in the quest. Once again, I ran as fast as I could, without even a glance at any passers-by, and safely arrived in Whiterun. I ran to Jorvaskr and turned in my quest. My cave bear mission was now over, and I grabbed the next one. After receiving the next mission, it was time to head back to Shimmermist Cave for my next transformation. Next up on the list for our transformations is the Chaurus Hunter, or Chaurus Hunter, although I did look it up and it wasn't exactly resolved, but the general consensus seemed to be Chaurus, so that's how I'm going to pronounce it from here on out. If you find that I am incorrect, please let me know in the comments. This creature can move pretty fast, and it will give us the ability to shoot a range poison move, like the Frostbite Spider. Hopefully, we will get an opportunity with our next mission. Speaking of the next mission, we're going to be hunting down a dangerous escaped criminal for the Companions, which effectively makes us the first ever Chaurus Bounty Hunter. Skjor recommended that we kill this criminal, and I was more than happy to oblige as long as I got paid. The criminal is located in Riverwood, so actually quite convenient for travel purposes. I decided to go straight there, once again ignoring anyone beckoning me off the side of the road. I moved swiftly and found the criminal loitering outside of the lumber mill. I approached him, and he must have sensed my authoritative bounty hunter aura, because he didn't mince words and just started swinging. I backed up with the plan to poison him. However, a nearby guard decided to jump in, and he made quick work of the criminal. Now, that criminal got lucky if you ask me, because he was about to die a slow and miserable death by Chaurus poison. In any case, with the criminal dealt with, I decided to loot his body and sell off his goods for a little extra profit and experience. Now, this seems to have rubbed the guards the wrong way, but it was my bounty after all, so I get to keep the loot. Once I was finished selling, I made my way back to Skjor and turned in the quest. I was not messing around anymore, and I decided to fly through this challenge as quickly as possible. No more vampire ambushes, bandit raids, or block stairwells. Nothing was going to slow me down. I grabbed the next mission from Skjor, which just so happened to be the Companion's trial run mission. If I succeeded in completing this quest, I would be a full-fledged member of the Companions. With quest in hand, I told Farkas to meet me at Dustman's Cairn, and then I headed straight for Shimmermist Cave and my next transformation. After the Chaurus Hunter was personally one of my most anticipated transformations, the Gargoyle. I've been wanting to play as one of these guys since Dawnguard first released. They are pretty tanky, but they are a bit slow as well. On the plus side, they do have a life drain ability on every single attack. Now after my transformation, I realized that I had to get rid of all these debuffs because I knew this mission was the real deal. I could not afford to have anything potentially holding me back for this one. So, I made my way into Whiterun and promptly forgot about Farkas having to spend the night in the dungeon while I stayed in the upper loft of an inn right outside of the famous Cloud District. After a good night's rest and a meal, I was ready to make my way to Dustman's Cairn to recover a piece of Wuthrad and prove myself worthy to be a companion. The journey there was rather uneventful, and I arrived to find Farkas patiently waiting without even a questioning glance as to what took me so long. What a professional. We made our way into the dungeon and Farkas warned me that it looked like someone else had arrived first. Fortunately, I played this game enough to know exactly who was here and I was prepared. Or so I thought. Now, we carved our way through a few Draugr who did a bit more damage to me than I would have liked, but not enough to make me want to turn back. We continued on until we faced a locked door. I found a lever, but, like a total rookie, I embarrassed myself by accidentally locking myself in a room and leaving Farkas in a 1v5 ambush. But Farkas transformed into a werewolf and promptly wiped the floor with a lot of them. Once I was out of the room, we made our way further into the dungeon until we ran upon a few more Silverhand. Their weapons did a surprising amount of damage, and for the first time in a while, I thought I was going to die. I'm not sure if this is because I count as an undead and I'm taking extra damage as a result. I feel like it would actually be a bit more if I was, so I think it was just their levels being a lot higher than mine. But I did manage to survive this encounter because fortunately I had life drain and plenty of potions to help me recover my health, at least for the time being. Now, this pattern continued for the next few encounters until we stumbled upon the Draugr and Silverhand fighting each other. Now, typically, the Silverhand would trouble me more, but these Draugr were no joke, and they downed Farkas early on, leaving me to fight on my own. I figured that I would be able to handle them with ease, but they did far more damage than I could have anticipated. Once again, I had to utilize a tactical retreat to use health potions. After a bit of fighting on my own, I discovered a decent strategy that involved timing and a little bit of luck. If I waited for them to throw a heavy attack, they'd be vulnerable for just a split second, and I could slash them. As long as they didn't try to parry me, I could exploit this weakness over and over again until they were dead. The only problem was that I had to lure them each one by one to effectively pull this off. The AI began to pick up on this and started to rush me as a small group. However, I retreated further and relocated to confuse them all over again. After some time of this strategy, I had whittled down the numbers to just 2 or 3. I decided to just stand up and go for the kill in the last few of them, and managed it only because of the life drain ability on my attacks. This strategy proved useful for a few more isolated fights, and after getting through some more Draugr, a few Skeevers, and some Frostbite Spiders, we finally reached the final room. Now, from previous playthroughs, I knew that this room was tough on regular legendary difficulty because of the sheer numbers of enemies and the locked door with nowhere to retreat. Thus, I knew it would be even tougher in this Requiem mod list. Now, I do know that it is possible to cheese the encounter, but this is a challenge and that would just be boring, so that's just completely out of the question. Now, I knew that there was no going back and that we still had one reserve life left just in case, so I decided to walk into the room and activate the first enemies by grabbing the fragment from the pedestal. This fight proved to be the toughest one yet, as wave after wave of Draugr came barreling at me and my shield brother. Farkas spent a large portion of time down, leaving me to fend for myself. No doubt this will be noted when I'm inevitably the leader of this group. Nevertheless, I was able to weather the storm each time because of that critical life drain ability and the few potions that I had left. Eventually, I only had a few more left and I decided to just trade blows because of the confidence I had in life drain. The gambit paid off, and finally the room was cleared. With no more enemies left, we had successfully completed the trial dungeon to become a companion. All that was left to do was to return the fragment to Jorvaskr. I got Farkas up, and we made our way out of the dungeon. Once we had arrived at Jorvaskr, Farkas led me around the back where we found the circle, ironically enough in a semicircle, and they welcomed me into their ranks with a lifeless recitation of their warrior's creed or something.
I stand witness to the courage of the soul before us. I would stand at his back. The world might never overtake us. I would lead the song of triumph as our mead hall reveled in his stories.
I don't know, I was just ready to move on to the next phase of the challenge. Once I'd been accepted in the companions, it was time for the next phase of the grind. We grabbed another mission and made our way out to Shimmermist Cave once again. Now it was time to transform into the armored troll. Now, trolls aren't exactly stronger, nor do they have higher base stats than gargoyles. However, the reason I placed them so high up on this list was for their unique rapid health regeneration. This ability alone made up for almost any downside in stats. We really only needed to watch out for fire magic. Once I had transformed, I double-checked my quest location. I was headed to Brood Cavern, which was actually pretty close to where I originally started this whole thing in Morthal. I decided to stop off in Whiterun and sell some of the gear I looted on my last mission. I leveled up as a result and put a point into my one-handed flurry ability. I'm not sure if this actually works with the creatures, but I didn't really have any better options, so this would have to do. After this, I grabbed a room at the inn and slept to remove the survival debuffs. In the morning, I grabbed a quick meal, and I was off to Brood Cavern to kill the invasive wolves there. On the way there, I accidentally walked into an ambush, but these bandits picked the wrong target. With my health regeneration, the fight was honestly a joke, and I one-shot nearly all of them. A little further into my trek, I ran into an angry saber cat. This was yet another easy fight. Finally, I had arrived at Brood Cavern, and I went straight in to deal with the wolves. Once inside, the wolves didn't pose much of a challenge. However, they were fairly evasive, so the fight took a little longer than I would have preferred. But once the leader was down, the cave had been cleared, and it was time to head back and turn in the quest. On the way back, I decided to pass by Robber's Gorge. I figured I wouldn't pass close enough to arouse the bandits' ire. But once one of them took a cheeky little cheap shot at me with my back turned, I decided that if they wanted to f*** around, they had better be ready to find out. And find out they did. I walked through that camp smacking them to death one by one, all while recovering all of my health faster than I could even find the next one to kill. With that out of the way, I once again started back to Whiterun. Now while on the road, I passed by a trio of Thalmor, and since I really hated those and I had a life to spare, I figured I'd give it a go and see how strong I really was. It turns out not that strong, and I went from teaching lessons to people to finding out myself. And once I loaded the save, I passed by looking the other way and whistling a troll tune, praying to Almighty Talos that they would take no notice. After this, I decided to be petty and get some sweet, sweet revenge when I noticed an old friend by the roadside selling illicit drugs. Oh, he just beat me to death. Revenge. I confiscated the drugs so that I could turn them in, of course. A little further down the road, I bumped into some drunks who gave me some free mead, and before I knew it, I had all the ingredients to throw a pretty sick party back at Jorvaskr. With some pep in my step, meat on my mind, and just a small hit of sleeping tree sap, I thought I was hallucinating when some random mage tried to light me on fire. After a few misses, I got close enough to throw hands, and he simply wasn't ready for them. I looted him and thankfully had no more incidents before arriving back in Whiterun. I walked into Jorvaskr high as a kite and turned on my quest to Aela. Before leaving, I grabbed the next quest from Farkas and decided to get some sleep before heading out to Shimmermist Cave. I had a terrible nightmare about being trapped in the stairwell again, and I woke up in a cold sweat and breathed a sigh of relief realizing that it was only a dream. I then got up and made my way to the same stairwell, and...
Oh no! Oh no! No, 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 no.
Once I got out of the stairwell, I headed straight to the cave for my transformation. However, right before I was about to revert, an ice mage attacked and tried to freeze me. I used the direct approach and decided to block it with my face so that I could deliver that satisfying one-hit kill. And finally, with him down, I was free to transform into the next creature in peace. The next creature on the list was the Draugr Deathlord. Now, I couldn't initially remember which Draugr it was, so I transformed into the wrong one, but I eventually figured it out and fixed my mistake. Once the transformation was complete, I checked my quest and discovered that it was a bandit clearing mission located at Bannermist Tower in Falkreath Hold. I decided to head straight there since I'd gotten rid of my debuffs the night before. On the way, I walked past a spot where I had a strong feeling of deja vu. We zoom. But I couldn't quite put my finger on why, so I just moved on. Eventually, I had yet another moment of deja vu. This time, I was sure I'd fought these guys on the road before. Either way, I decided, I've got 2 lives. I think I can take them. Why not give it a go? Okay. I think I'm done messing with them now. After a few minutes of walking, I discovered the tower tucked away in the woods. I ran straight ahead knowing that I had the element of surprise on my side. After all, how many Draugr do you see wandering the woods in broad daylight? However, the first bandit had the reaction time of a squirrel on speed, and he immediately dodged my first swing and parried my second. He was clearly well trained for a bandit, so I utilized my secret weapon. I could speak dragon, and I yelled at him in the Dova language. He was not prepared for it, but his backup arrived just in time. I swung for the fences and felled 2 of them before the last one almost took me down. Fortunately for me, his swings were wild and unwieldy, and the death blow missed me by mere inches. I saw my chance for a tactical retreat, and I took it. As expected, the bandit followed me, hoping for an easy kill. This is when he learned that I'm actually about that life, and I turned around and yelled at him to come and get me. Fortunately, I was still speaking dragon, and the force of the scream pushed him back and caused him to become disoriented and panic. He turned his back, and the rest was history. Once the last bandit went down, I started back to Whiterun. On the road, I ran across some wolves evaluating a recently wrecked carriage. They barked something about how this guy probably wished he had extended his carriage's warranty, so I yelled that I wasn't interested in their elaborate schemes. They took offense and ran at me, intending violence. So, I raised my sword and slew them in self-defense. I inspected the clearly fake burn victims and left the site in a hurry. I made the long journey back to Whiterun, and just outside the gate, I decided to stop and have a quick 6-hour marksmanship study session. This got me a level up, and I decided to put the point into the conditioning perk in the heavy armor skill tree. Once I'd finished, I went straight to Jorvaskr and turned in my mission to Farkas. I then grabbed the next mission from Skjor and ran to Shimmermis Cave. Once there, I reverted form and... Wait a minute. What the... Why did I revert to a Draugr? Okay, well after some troubleshooting, I guess my base form is a Draugr now. My last save is too far back for me to load, so I'm just going to keep on going with the main save. Oh well, let's roll with it and see what happens. Maybe it'll work. Next up, we have our first Atronach form, with the Flame Atronach. This one is up first, being the weakest stat-wise. However, the Flame Atronach does have the advantage of being very fast in movement, which makes up for the stat deficiency. It also has very efficient attacks, being able to launch firebolts at no cost along with the flame spell. Obviously, flame spells being no cost to a Flame Atronach makes sense, but this really could come in handy later. However, because of its low stats, I will definitely have to play it safe and fight from a distance. Like clockwork, I check my map to see my destination, and realize that I am heading right back to Bannermist Tower to recover a family heirloom. I got on the road and decided to just go straight there without stopping. I did have one debuff, but fortunately, I was a Flame Atronach who apparently had no issue ingesting water. Once I'd quenched my thirst, I started toward Bannermist Tower, and decided, why not try a shortcut? Since we were now down to just one life, I had to be extra careful on this mission. I knew I would have to keep my distance and spam Firebolt more than likely, so once I arrived at the tower from a safer road this time, I launched into my guerrilla tactics. After a few Firebolts, each bandit went down pretty quick. I had to retreat into the woods once they gave chase, but I had the speed advantage and an attack that I could launch at distance. Finally, there was only one left at the top of the tower. I employed the same tactics, but I had to be extra careful. One arrow would nearly deplete all of my health, so I just kept moving in and out, launching firebolts until I struck the last blow. Once the bandits were down, I looted the key, opened the door, and grabbed the heirloom. This time, it was an iron greatsword. Okay. Well, once again, I'm sure there's sentimental value here. With sword in hand, I glided my way back to Whiterun, apparently unfazed by the rain. Once I arrived back at Jorvaskr, I turned in the mission and grabbed another. Then I was, once again, off to Shimmermis Cave for my next transformation into the next Atronach iteration. The next Atronach form on the list was the Storm Atronach. Now technically this Atronach is the strongest stat-wise. However, the reason I chose to put this one second is because, well, I have no logical reason. I just really like the Frost Atronach form, and I wanted to save my favorite for last. So there you go. Anyways, the Storm Atronach has the best stats of the three, but its 2 lightning attacks are basically just the same thing, so not super interesting, but you take what you get. Now, I do have the ability to throw a punch with my giant electrically charged rock hands, which would seem like a really powerful attack, but it really doesn't do that much. And why would I ever choose that over the Emperor Palpatine move? In any case, I figured that I could certainly handle hunting down an escaped criminal in any Atronach form, so it didn't really matter. I checked the map to see where this criminal was last sighted by some confidential informant I must have through the Companions Network, and lo and behold, yet another criminal seemed to have decided to stop off at Riverwood. Now, I knew he'd probably be on the run soon if he knew that Coslashdog the Bounty Hunter was on the case. So I headed straight to Riverwood without any hesitation. Now, apparently my confidential informant was a soothsayer or something because the criminal seemed to only just be arriving, right when I was. I hesitated for a moment, considering the moral implications of a possible Minority Report type situation. But then I remembered that I'm not Tom Cruise. I'm just a simple storm Atronach, and I just started casting my lightning. The criminal bull rushed me, but a local guard once again stepped in and stole my kill. This had been by far the easiest mission yet. My confidence was soaring, and once I'd turned in the mission, I hardly paid attention to the directive for the next one. I just grabbed it and confidently floated back to Shimmermas Cave, where I would make my final Atronach transformation. Hopefully. And now we finally made it to the last Atronach form, the Frost Atronach. I'm excited to play as this form because it is definitely my favorite of the 3 for mainly one reason. Let's kick some ice. Ice to meet you. Whoa dude, looks like you need to chill out. It seems to me you're on thin ice.
Let's kick some ice.
Now, as far as firepower, it has its fists and a very powerful heavy attack where it slams its fist into the ground for a huge area of effect ice explosion. The main strategy with this form is going to be to get in close and do as much damage as possible as fast as possible. But now it was time to start the next mission. So I opened the map and discovered that I had quite the trek to make compared to my more recent missions. I'm headed to Oratheim to retrieve yet another iron sword. Are you kidding me? The companions need to upgrade their clientele. Like, we should really consider catering exclusively to the Cloud District. Anyways, I got on the road and started toward Oratheim. Nothing particularly interesting happened on the way there until I ran across some poachers harassing a few mammoths. The giants were apparently bribed to look the other way, so I was forced to step in. I made pretty short work of these poachers, and after only a few minutes, the fight was over. I then turned around and headed straight for Oratheim. I decided to take the direct approach and I just ran in without a second thought. Unfortunately, a second thought may have prevented what happened next. After this failure, I was down to just 1 life left. I knew I had to be very careful or I was headed back to the Storm Atronach. I had 1 shot, so I decided to try a hit and run strategy. I could just take out 1 or 2 at a time, then I could run out of the cave to heal and just rinse and repeat. I knew the leader and the fire mage were the biggest threats, so I decided to try and isolate those fights if I could. First, I took out the 2 in the first room, then I realized there was actually a third. We hit each other at the same time, and fortunately I one-shot him. Unfortunately, he nearly did the same, and I was extremely low on health. So I ran out of the cave, healed up, and then went back in. Once I was in, I knew I had to isolate the leader who was using a great hammer. He was in the room with the mage, and I couldn't lure him out. I knew I'd have to run in, so my priority was the mage since he had a powerful range attack that could definitely one-shot me. I had to kill him in 1 hit, so I decided to run in and use my power attack. It was a gamble, but it worked, and he was down. I retreated into the next room, and the leader followed me in. Unfortunately, he was tanking more of my damage than the others, so after eating a few hammer blows, I was forced to retreat once again. Once more, I had to isolate him and try to finish the fight quickly. I rushed in again, and after 3 near misses with my heavy attack, I finally landed one just as he rushed me. I then realized that there was one more bandit archer in the other room, but he wasn't much of a threat, and I easily took him out. The encounter was more stressful than I had anticipated, and I grabbed the garbage sword I came here for and made my way back to Whiterun. I turned in the quest and grabbed the next one. However, this next quest would be different because it was the next main part of the companion's questline. I was about to become a werewolf. Skjor told me to meet him that night at the Underforge. I agreed to meet him that night and made my way out to Shimmerman's cave to revert form in preparation for my werewolf. In preparation for my werewolf transformation. So yeah, that's where we're gonna stop today. I do appreciate you taking the time to watch the video and making it all the way to the end. It means a lot to me. The last video actually made it to over 1,000 views, which I cannot believe at this point, and from what I can tell, it's still climbing a little bit at this moment. I'm sure it's gonna peak at some point, but I am truly grateful to anyone who has taken the time to watch, and especially if you've taken the time to subscribe. I know it's typical that most people who watch videos are not subscribed to the channel, and I don't necessarily blame people. I don't always subscribe to channels immediately either. But if you are enjoying the content up to this point, like if you've enjoyed my last few videos and you've liked the improvements, or you've enjoyed the humor or anything like that, it really does help. So I do just want to say thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and I really hope this series is entertaining for you, and I already have some ideas for the next series. It will involve this mod as well, because I found a couple of pretty cool ideas for it, I think. So hopefully I can reveal that in the finale of the next one, so you kind of get an idea. And maybe I'll even put together a preview at the end. But I do appreciate you taking the time to watch this. And if any of you have any feedback or anything, like you want to see, or a particular style you like, or anything like that, just let me know in the comments. It helps me out, because then I can kind of plan things in advance to see what people actually want to see or want to hear, you know, kind of what you enjoyed or what you didn't particularly like. Just let me know. And in any case, I do just really appreciate your patronage, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. See ya.